Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Kevin Donahue. I'm the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice. And I can't think of a more important reason for us all to be gathered here today. Today we're going to celebrate the opening of the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. A lot of people played a role in getting us to this point. I want to thank the mayor, our mayor, for helping provide the funding and driving us to do this within 30 days of the beginning of our fiscal year when we had the funding to be able to open this. I want to thank Councilmember Allen for his support in making sure this got through the whole legislative and budget process. And I want to thank Councilmember McDuffie, who put the enabling legislation that actually created the idea that became the office that we're here to open today. But I'd be remiss if I also didn't thank all the residents and all the advocates here in D.C. who pushed all the folks you see in front of you right here to be able to make this happen. This would not have happened without your relentless persistence and insistence that we have as a city a balanced and public health approach to public safety. So thank you. The launch of this office is a huge step for the district in its quest for a safer city. Let me talk about a bit about what the office will do. It'll be responsible for engaging with some of our most at-risk and often most forgotten individuals in D.C. and give them a chance to have a better life by connecting the programming and support that they need. They will also play a role in trying to coordinate all the different programs across all the agencies of D.C. that play a role in preventing violence and reducing crime. As Mayor Bowser said, calling police cannot be our only response to reducing violence and preventing crime in communities. Violence prevention, diversion from incarceration, restorative justice, increasing economic opportunities are all part of the equation that ultimately lead to a safer city. We know we must meet people where they are. We should not expect people to come to us where we are. That means we have to bring robust services, quality services tailored to individuals where they live, in communities where they reside, and engage with those communities and those individuals to help us shape what public safety should look like in their communities. The office will help streamline these efforts and serve as a coordinator for all the Safer, Stronger DC initiatives. We also want to make sure, and we really want to make sure, that all of us work together and that the community has a big voice on what those services look like. We're also here to open a building. This is a building that's been closed for a few years that used to house the 6D headquarters for NPD. This building will still be focused on public safety, but it won't have police here. It'll work in partnership with NPD. It will have the ONE's office, but it will also have a presence of our ACE and PASS program that does diversion for young adults. It'll have a presence from our Department of Behavioral Health, from our Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services. So everyone in this building will be here because they're focused on preventing violence. And by doing that, we really bring all the tools of the city we can together to offer communities to pull violence and crime down. And I want to thank you for being here. And I look forward to working with you and having you hold us accountable for making this a success as we reduce crime and increase safety in each one of our neighborhoods across all of D.C. Before I introduce the young man who's going to introduce the mayor, I do want to give the two council members who played a large part of this a chance to speak. First, Council Member Charles Allen, the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and then Council Member Kenny McDuffie.
Thank you, Kevin, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It is great to be here. And Kevin's said it, but I want to add my thanks to my friend and colleague, Councilor Kenny McDuffie, who helped really lead the way with the legislation that helped create this with the NEAR Act, and also to the mayor for helping implement this and helping make sure that this shared vision that I think we've been able to help create with the community, with neighbors, with leaders across the city is something that's going to be realized. And I know that when we have the introduction coming of our new director, this is somebody that we are really pulling for them to succeed. We're pulling for them to be successful because when they do better, we know the city's going to be doing better. I've probably lost track of the number of times that we say it's not up to the police alone. You can't just arrest your way out of issues. You can't arrest your way out of problems. And this legislation and then today's actions I think go a long way in actually helping make good on that statement that we say, frankly, a little too often. And I think the investments we're making, the people that we're hiring, the people that we're bringing on board are going to be a big part of that. That's, to me, what the NEAR Act and what the Office of Neighborhood Engagement and Safety is about, is really trying to think through ways that we can act differently to help provide a safer city, safer communities, to help reduce violence and help intervene where it's going to make the biggest difference and save lives, save communities, save families, and again, make us a safer city and a place that we're all really proud of. So congratulations, Ms. Mayor, on today's announcement, to the partnership with Kevin and everybody else. Thank you all very much.
Good morning. Are we still in the morning? I think we're still in the morning. It's one of those mornings where I've already had about 5 meetings. But none of them have been as important as what we're doing right now. And there are a lot of people that I want to thank. I know I don't have much time to thank them. But I definitely want to give a shout out to some guys who were with me on January 2015 when the first ideas around creating something like this came into fruition. Folks like Tony Lewis, like Ron Moten, like Trayon White, Silas Grant, Charles Thornton were all together with me at Bus Boys and Poets in January more than 2.5 years ago when we started talking about doing something different, creating some different solutions. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. What I think Mayor Bowser, Deputy Mayor Donahue, and others are doing are obviously not insanity. It's not insane. We're doing something different in the District of Columbia. We're focusing on prevention. We're putting resources behind prevention. The NEAR Act, Neighborhood Engagement Achieve Results Act, had a lot of different components. We created the Office of Violence Prevention and Health Equity, but this Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement is a critical component of that. And I know there have been a lot of opinions about whether or not it's going to be effective. It's only going to be as effective as the folks who are standing behind me, as well as the folks who are standing in front of me, the folks who are in these neighborhoods. I can't emphasize how important MPD is in public safety. And I know Chief Newsham and Chief Lanier before him have been working really hard and diligently on crime safety and making sure that we can have a better environment in the District of Columbia in terms of public safety. But as Charles said, and as I say frequently, the police are not going to be most responsible for preventing the types of crimes that we're talking about this office is going to be working on. We're talking about violent crimes. We're talking about some of the most violent of offenders, people who carry guns, people who shoot guns. This is what this office is going to be focused on. The director who's going to be named shortly has got his work cut out for him, but I think it's going to be important that he knows that he's got a whole community of people, including our mayor, our deputy mayor, but a whole community of people who have got his back and who are going to have the backs of the outreach workers once they get hired, because they're going to be doing the hard work in these communities, engaging some of these folks, making sure that we can try to prevent crime in the District of Columbia. So thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, please give her a round of applause. Deputy Mayor Donahue, for the funding. But let's make sure that we get to work and make sure that we support this office. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Now it is my pleasure to introduce Trayvon Kinney, who will introduce our mayor to the District of Columbia.
Thank you. Good morning, D.C. government staff, Mayor Muriel Bowser, and of course, D.C. residents. My name is Trayvon Kinney. I want to start by thanking Mayor Muriel Bowser for the opportunity to speak here today on behalf of Safer Stronger. I met Marcus Ellis right outside of Cheers by the Big Chair. I apologize. As a Safer Stronger D.C. liaison, my tasks range from searching neighborhood engagement, violence prevention offices in major cities, to also creating an outreach plan for the Department of Employment Services, while also collaborating with major government agencies, ANC commissioners, directors, and of course our D.C. residents. This experience has had an enlightening effect on me, and of also my knowledge and competitiveness. Much of our work is community-based, and it allows us to interact with the community as we're serving at the same time. Walking and conversing with individuals who usually have a tensely outlook on government and changing their mind is a very delightful feeling. But by connecting them to normally difficult government resources, we not only change the minds of residents' outlook on government, but we also aim to increase employment and decrease criminal activity. Again, I would like to sincerely thank Mayor Muriel Bowser for the opportunity to speak here today, and also for working with the Safer Stronger DC team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Well, good morning, everyone. And welcome to our brand new office right here in Ward 7, focused on making us a safer, stronger DC. It brings me great pleasure to welcome you to the Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. I want to thank Councilmember McDuffie, who authored a piece of legislation called the NEAR Act, who worked with his colleagues on the council, who worked with stakeholders around all 8 wards to ensure that our approach to public safety in Washington, D.C. Continued to be balanced, in a balanced approach, making sure that we weren't only focused on law enforcement, but making sure we were also focused on people investment. And that certainly has been the focus of our administration, and we are very, very pleased that the framework provided by the NEAR Act provides a pathway for funding that we were happy to put in place in our most recent budget, but it also provides a framework for accountability. And that is what we should all be focused on. So, Councilmember McDuffie, congratulations on an outstanding legislative achievement. And also to Councilmember Allen, who is here, thank you for your focus on public safety in the district and joining us in making sure we have what we need for law enforcement, but also making sure that we continue to invest in all that is important about creating opportunity. I also want to thank my tremendous team that's behind me. Give them a big round of applause. And I walked up, I said, who are all those beautiful people? And they look like our Safer, Stronger team. And that is our framework for public safety. And that is more than law enforcement. You heard Kevin say it very well. It includes how we create opportunity, how we prevent violence. In the cases where there is violence, making sure that violence is stopped and people are held accountable for their actions. And that is what makes a safer, stronger team. I want to thank Kevin Donahue, the Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and his entire team for working diligently. Kevin and the city administrator set as a goal that as soon as we had the funds available, we would have the programs in place to get started. And almost record D.C. government time, we're opening an office here on the 25th when the money became available on October 1st. So, Kevin, thank you very much. City Administrator, thank you very much for the focus and getting us here today. And what is also critical in another demonstration of our commitment to making sure we make these efforts successful is having a fantastic team. You heard Councilmember McDuffie talk about how important it is that we have people who have experience in disrupting violence in our city, that we're able to attract team members who are going to do the hard work. Going out into neighborhoods, sometimes in very difficult situations, all hours of the day and night, on the weekends, on the holidays, away from their own families, to make sure that we are engaging the people who have demonstrated that they will commit violent crimes. These are the same people that would be victims of violent crimes. So this activity of disrupting violence is going to save people from making mistakes, and it will save people from being victims on our streets. Let me, it is acknowledged now and introduce to some a person who fits the bill for this leadership. He has over 20 years of experience with working with young people. He has over 20 years of experience with working with young people who have been victims of violence and perpetrators of violence. He has the direct experience of breaking up gang beasts and going into communities that have been traumatized by violence and helped turn them around. It brings me great pleasure to appoint as our first director of our new Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, McFadden. As you can see, Del is no stranger to working in our communities. He knows that you get the job done through building relationships, with building and maintaining trust in the community, with coming up with a plan, with relying on evidence-based practices, with working with all of the people in the government to continue to drive down crime and create opportunity in our city. Earlier this week, or actually yesterday, we presented, the Chief of Police presented to the Council of the District of Columbia our efforts to make sure we're hiring police officers, that we're attracting great people to our department and retaining great people in our department. And we have seen for the first time in 4 years that our police numbers are going up. And I want to thank the Chief of Police for all of his efforts. And I want to thank the men and women of the Metropolitan Police Department for all they do to keep us safe and strong. Thank you, MPD. I want to also acknowledge the Deputy Mayor for Greater Economic Opportunity, who is here. And her focus, the entire focus of that agency, is to ensure that neighborhoods who have for too long not gotten the investment that they need are getting that investment. In her office, in the Department of Employment Services, has been focused on, for example, a program that is part of our Safer, Stronger framework called Career Connections. And Career Connections ensures that young people who need a second chance are getting it immediately. When our ANC commissioners, when our roving leaders, and now when Dale and his team identify young people who need an immediate opportunity, the Career Connections programs allow them to do that. So what we have seen is a 24% decrease in violent crime in our city from this year to last year. What we've seen is a 29% decrease in robberies and burglaries from this time this year from last year, and a 14% decrease in homicides. What we know is that the things that we're doing are working together, but it also tells us that we have more to do and more people to save and more opportunities to provide. And so we look forward to our new Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement being a critical piece of our public safety strategies in Washington, D.C. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce Del McFadden.
Good morning. I would like to thank everyone for coming out for this occasion. I can't express in words how I feel about this. I'm just really getting the magnitude of seeing everyone here today. But first, I would like to thank Mayor Bowser for appointing me to this position. Come on, y'all can clap better than that. And I would like to thank her for putting funding behind this legislation. As she stated, I've been dedicated to high-risk youth for 20 years. And I've been working in these communities, especially Northwest. I have families here today that I worked with, and that is part of my heart. That is why I exist. That is why I'm here today, to do that work, to be a servant of the people. And so I didn't prepare a speech. I said I'll do it from the heart, right? And so I really want to connect with everyone here. I actually start on Monday, so and I have to get back to my current job after this. But I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. I really think that we can change things, and I don't want to make this an effort where we're running from community to community, putting out fires and dealing with homicides. I want us to be able to address the economic issues in Ward 5, 7, and 8. And I think if we address those issues along with education and psychological disorder, and a lot of these kids suffer from PTSD, and you see them at every funeral, it's the same kids over and over and over. And so I'm dedicated 110%. I want to thank my wife for allowing me to do this, because this will be time consuming. We will back late nights and go into crisis situations. But I want to thank everyone who helped put the foundation together, John Ming. I want to also thank Marcus Ellis and everyone for putting this legislation together. I'm really not going to focus on any negativity. I know there's challenges, but I'm focusing on taking the high road and giving myself to saving lives. That's what this is all about, saving lives. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to get a tour of our new office, but before we do that, we have a few minutes for on-topic press questions, and then we'll go in for a tour. Questions? Going once? Yes. Yes.
Where within the D.C. government will this office be located? And two, what is the budget, and is it currently underfunded given the people you've hired and are hiring?
Sure, I'm happy to answer the question. The question was, where does it sit in our D.C. government organizational structure? And it sits in the Deputy Mayor for Public Safeties and Justices cluster. And Kevin will talk specifically about the budget.
The budget for the office is around $1.6 million. But the office will also be able to leverage and use resources at DOES, at DHS to do some of the programming and support that it needs. So I think the resources that that Director McFadden will be able to bring to this cause will be well in excess of his actual budget.
Is my understanding that you have hired or plan to hire something like 30 employees, including 20 roving leaders? Where does their salary come from out of this $1.6 million?
The office is not in the office's budget to have roving leaders. What happened in the budget is that there were 5 positions from the Department of Parks and Rec that were moved over to this office. The total FTE count, and you might be looking at the budget document, so it's a pop quiz. I might be off by a few. Is probably going to be around 20, probably a little bit less than that. The enabling legislation called for something less than that, but we tried to be able to staff this up the best we could. The roving leaders, who many of them have been doing this work in communities for a long time, will be a vital partner in working in collaboration with this office, but they're not part of its formal budget.
And you may be thinking, because we want the roving leaders to be incorporated into this office, and we'll continue to work with the council on that. Yes, Sam.
And the police, that sort of, I guess, came up in the meeting yesterday. How is the city with in terms of its police force? Is it up to what you want it to be, or where does it stand at this point?
Well, I think you heard the chief's response to that we continue to put programs in place to attract and retain the best police officers. We recently announced that we have a housing incentive programs for new recruits. We've also announced a student loan forgiveness program for current officers at MPD that meet the eligibility criteria. And we continue continue to be very focused on our recruitment efforts in D.C. and around the country. And part of those recruitment efforts involve reaching out to our young people right in D.C. neighborhoods so that they can be a part of the police academy at Anacostia, and they can also be a part of our expanded cadet program. One thing that we were able to do in our first piece of Safer, Stronger legislation back in 2015, I believe, was expand the age of the cadet program. So instead of ending at the age of 21, you can be now up to the age of 24 to participate in our cadet program, which is fantastic. One thing that we know is that our force has gained the trust of our communities because our force reflects our community, and we want to work very hard at keeping it that way. The bottom line is that the police chief referred to two metrics and saying that he's comfortable with our levels, and that is violent crime continues to go down in our city, and police response times, despite the fact that we have increased calls and more people, are also going down. So that indicates that our police are getting to the most pressing violent crimes very fast. And so we're going to continue to recruit the best and the brightest and retain the best and the brightest.
Finally, Mayor, for me.
Yes.
We have been hearing, particularly in the 7th District,
Yep.
about a number of homicides. I see Trayon up there. We heard from him yesterday, and I think it was something like 7 in the last week. I'm not sure exactly what, but there's a lot of violence going on, even though I looked at the numbers. They're the same as last year. But we're in a period here where we're having a number of homicides. A young woman killed at 16th and W, and there were three people involved in the shooting yesterday.
Well, that's exactly why we're here, and that's exactly why I think the council members supported this office, but also support having a robust police presence so that we're identifying violent offenders, we're identifying where illegal guns are, and we're removing them from our streets. And when we do have crime, we're relying and working with our communities to tell us what they know about them. And that includes members of the council. People call me if they have information about a crime. They call members of the council if they have information about a crime. And we need them to make sure our police investigators have that information so that we are locking people up who would be indiscriminately shooting weapons in our city. One other thing that we discussed in our meeting yesterday with the council is how we're using evidence to track down people who are using illegal guns, and that's coming out of our crime lab. And because our crime lab has been more effective in identifying illegal weapons that are used in crimes, we're closing more of those cases using that information. So I want to say to the people in the 7th District and Ward 8 that no amount of crime, even though that we see citywide numbers going down, in many cases in PSAs in Ward 8, we see those numbers going down too. But we share their concern. We're going to have not only the police available, but we're going to have all of our violence disrupting strategies that we're talking about today available as well. Thank you, everybody. Oh, before we get the tour, we're going to cut the ribbon. Yes. Okay. You guys ready down there? Okay. 1, 2, 3.